Hello, coaches. Today, what I want to take you through is the hypnosis training that you learned in NLP practitioner. I'm going to dive straight into the same slides that you would have seen in your training. This is all about refreshing things and bringing it up, bringing the knowledge back up to the surface. So let's get started. Now, there is a difference between hypnosis and NLP. NLP is quite specific in its intervention. Think about when a client comes to you and they've got that problem and they've sort of walled up that problem with a whole labyrinth, that maze. And the NLP specific intervention would be to help that client gain the resources to know which corner to turn to be able to get to the other side of that maze. Whereas hypnotherapy is a lot more generalized in its intervention, helping somebody access that sense of trance and accessing their unconscious mind to gain the knowledge within themselves, metaphorically or symbolically, how to just be on the other side of the maze without doing all the things. Hypnosis itself, hypnos, is the Greek god of sleep. Now, hypnosis wakes people up to the possibility of change and the resources available to them. So, while we often think of hypnosis as going into a trance, going to sleep, I want you to consider hypnosis about being woken up from that trance into your reality that works for you. And yes, when we talk about hypnosis, there is a difference between stage hypnosis and hypnotherapy. Often, when I tell people, maybe I have a tradesperson on my property or take my dog to the vet, they say in polite conversation, "What do you do for a career?" They're like, "Yeah, I'm a hypnotherapist." And the next thing you know, that person's like, "Oh, you're going to make me cluck like a chicken." And, you make the polite laughter and the banter and actually correct them to say, "No, I use hypnosis to help people resolve anxiety." But yeah, it's interesting how people automatically hear hypnosis or hypnotherapy and associate to a chicken. My question to you is, though, what sound does a chicken make? And anytime I've ever asked this in person, or with a co-host, the person actually answers that question like, what? The truth is, I don't need to put you into a trance to get you to act like a chicken. You will do that without the trance. People will do things in trance that are authentic to their values, their attitude, and their character. If you are somebody who's an extrovert, love to make good jokes, loud, happy, go lucky, then it's likely that you're in trance. You will be perfect for stage hypnosis. You will do the things that are quite extrovert in their nature compared to somebody who's an introvert, quite humble, keep themselves small or keep themselves out of the way. That particular client's approach to hypnosis will be very, very different. Somebody who's loud, life of the party. So keeping in mind, people will do things in trance that are authentic to their values, attitudes, and characters. So the question is, what's important to you? Or what do you value? Now, keep in mind as we go through this training that all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. If you have one of those clients who is quite resistant, you can't hypnotize me, then as the coach, remember to answer them in something like this. Of course I can't. You're going to do that yourself. No one is doing anything for you. So a client says, you can't hypnotize me. Like, of course I can't. You're going to do that for yourself. Now, there are hundreds of different types of courses on hypnotherapy, hundreds, absolutely hundreds. And in fact, my husband used to be the head trainer at the Hypnotic Academy. There are so many different types of hypnotherapy, hypnosis. Today, in the NLP practitioner training, we explore Milton Erickson and Dave Ellman. So that's just two. If you ever continue on with your hypnosis skills and knowledge, any clinical hypnosis, anything like that, you will be exposed to different types of hypnosis. And I'll go into a little bit more of that down the track. And of course, if you're part of the NLP practitioner training, you know that this is what your certificate looks like. Now, right at the beginning of our NLP practitioner, I would have given you a bit of a sample to the history of NLP. In that, we looked at Milton Erickson being part of hypnosis or part of NLP, I should say. And that's a picture for you to just put a name to the face. Face to the name to the face. Now, Milton Erickson said your clients will be your clients because they are not in rapport with their unconscious mind. Someone in rapport with their unconscious mind would have already resolved all of their issues and been able to heal and handle anything that comes up for themselves. So your client is coming to you because there's a lack of rapport. Think within themselves. Think about when you're in your own problems and feeling stuck. And in that sense of doubt, should I do this? Shouldn't I do this? Da 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 da. Your unconscious mind is pulling you in one direction, your logical mind is pulling you into a different direction. And this is the instance of lack of rapport in the sense of like inability to trust yourself on which direction to take yourself. So, Milton Erickson, he liked to flip our perspective around when it comes to how we look at hypnosis. He did die, or he passed away uh, in 1980. He was an American psychiatrist and psychologist, and he specialized in medical hypnosis and family therapy. Now, he was an interesting character because he contracted polio at the age of 17. He was dyslexic, he was colorblind, he was tone deaf, and he explained these extraordinary abilities and disabilities helped him to focus on aspects of communication and behavior that the average person just took for granted. So Erickson used humor to help people feel comfortable with his style of therapy. So while traditional hypnosis is authoritative and direct, Erickson's approach was accommodating and indirect. For example, where a classical hypnotist might say, you are going into trance, you are going into trance. An Ericksonian hypnotist would be more likely to say, you are comfortably, sorry, you can comfortably learn how to go into trance. And so, in this way, there was this invitation and an opportunity for you to become more comfortable with your own ability to go into trance. Now, people have a natural resistance to direct suggestions. If I had said to you, go exercise, you're going to notice that there's definitely a barrier that is like, no, that's not happening. But what happens with Ericksonian hypnosis is we deliberately bring in stories, metaphors, and confusion techniques to be able to loosen the client's model of the world, to be able to access their unconscious mind so that when they are in that level of trance, the things that they said that they want is now at the unconscious level. And so there's no more willpower to make it happen. The unconscious mind, the programming is in place. So with Ericksonian hypnosis, we deliberately bring in confusion because you have a conscious mind and you have an unconscious mind, and your conscious mind has ways of understanding. But the kind of conscious understanding that you consciously understand is different from the unconscious understandings that you unconsciously understand. And then there are the misunderstandings. And you can consciously understand your unconscious misunderstandings, or you can unconsciously misunderstand your conscious understandings. The kind of conscious understandings that the unconsciously understand is different from the unconscious misunderstandings that you unconsciously realize, but you can't really understand this until you exercise this week. Oh, you feeling your mind just like, okay, went into a trance very quickly. And so this getting you into a trance, putting in that command right at the end, whether it worked or not, it's a different story. But this is the type of style that the Ericksonian hypnotherapists use. Now, keep in mind that hypnosis is actually quite young in the way that you and I have permission to access it and facilitate it. Hypnosis used to be restricted for people in medicine, psychology, and dentistry. So while it's magnificent and powerful, and lots of people need access to hypnosis and the healing that comes with that, It used to have this big wall around it that unless you had your medical degree, you couldn't touch it. Thankfully, that's no longer in place. Now, keep in mind, this is where we get to the red flags. Hypnosis is discouraged for treating psychotic disorders because it makes the client more disorientated or more delusional. There is actually a different makeup of the way that their neural networks work and the way that they respond to hypnosis. So do not use this with people with schizophrenia, personality disorders, bipolar, epilepsy. It's too many red flags. It's just like don't. Unless you're a clinical hypnotherapist, no, we don't touch them. We don't touch people with these disorders. And if we were in training, I'd say, go check out Richard Bandler. My gosh. I named my dog Richard, so I get to say that I live with Richard Bandler every single day. But he's just magnificent in what he does with hypnosis. Go watch it on YouTube after you finish this one. Ooh, what does hypnosis feel like? Well, the truth is that we go into trance every single day. So, hypnosis is that state between awake and asleep. You only momentarily sort of experience that, but you experience it every single day. So, it's not a foreign thing to you. So, you know that feeling when you're at a red light and you lose track of time, or when you lose all sense of time, when you get absorbed into a story or a movie? Hypnosis is that feeling of being at a red light and losing track of time, or that immersion of 1 minute you're sitting in the chair with the popcorn, and then the next minute you are like in the movie, completely immersed in the experience. So, hypnosis can be seen as a waking state of awareness in which a person's attention is detached from his or her immediate environment. Hypnosis is the moment that feels like you're relaxed and just like very normal moment to moment. So like that safe and familiar dazed feeling when you start to wake up. You haven't switched on logically yet for the day. And so the purpose of going into trance is that it suspends that critical or that analytical thinking so a client can actually open the mind and accept in new ideas that were agreed upon before the hypnosis or the trance begins. So it helps you change your self-image, your self-worth, your self-confidence. So you're no longer attracting in and having the challenges come up over and over again. It's like, no, I've addressed this and we can shift and adjust. And at a clinical level of training, hypnotherapy can be effective and is effective in all sorts of scenarios: anxiety, asthma, chronic pain, fears and phobias, smoking, high blood pressure, insomnia, panic attacks, stress, migraine, obesity, sucking a thumb, stuttering, sleep problems, sexual problems, the list goes on. You can use hypnosis to solve anything that's problematic, and you can use hypnosis to build upon your performance if you're an athlete, if you're a coach. We can set you up for success with hypnosis. Now, hypnosis is different to meditation. Meditation's intention is to clear the logical mind. Hypnosis is intended to communicate with the unconscious mind, so different direction. And yes, in hypnosis, in trance, you will still be aware and in control. And yes, it is like daydreaming and just like the time flows away. You can be in trance for over an hour and it feel like 5 minutes. Yes, relaxation is a byproduct of hypnosis. It's not the main thing that we're looking for, but often people feel relaxed in trance. And yes, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. And yes, there will be changes, and your unconscious mind will make sure of that. Trance is that trance is absolutely amazing, and it can help you explore the possibilities of your potential, but it actually can't change the outside world. Keep that in mind when you're facilitating this for clients. This is where decisions must be made, so you're at cause and feeling empowered to make changes for yourself. So if you're treating somebody with anxiety about being bullied at work, Their anxiety can definitely be resolved, but they still need to take action to talk to their boss, to make a plan, or be prepared to change jobs so they stop being exposed to that constant trigger. Hypnosis will work amazingly to resolve the anxiety, but you need to be prepared to put in physical changes. And that may be having those difficult conversations. But if you're not ruled by the filter of stress and ruled by the filter of fear, then of course you can step into your confidence and you can address those problems that previously were huge and now quite small. Can everyone be hypnotized? Good question. People say to me, like, I don't think I can be hypnotized. What if it doesn't work for me? And yeah, it's completely understandable that people would question this, especially if it's new to them. However, their question does indicate a level of naivety as the as to what trance and hypnosis actually are. Hypnosis is a state of consent and cooperation. Everyone can go into a hypnotic trance. The question is, do they trust the facilitator? Do they trust the hypnotherapist? Because if they don't trust the facilitator, what do you think is going to happen? If there's lack of trust and a lack of rapport, hypnosis will not happen. It's just not going to happen, and it's just like having that sense of trust in doing anything. I recently took my dog to the vet, and he was talking about his experience of NLP. Can you believe it? I'm talking to a vet about NLP, and he said that he needs to have skills to build trust and rapport with the client, the human, before he can do anything to their animal. Because if the person is tense and doesn't trust, neither does the animal. And it's just, I don't mean to compare it to hypnosis, but it is like hypnosis. You need to be relaxed to allow your walls to drop down for the healing to work. It's not a matter if you can be hypnotized, but whether or not you will allow yourself to be helped to enter hypnosis. You can't be hypnotized into doing things against your will, and you can't be forced into a hypnotic state. There may be some really specialized skills, really, really rare hypnotherapists that could, but day-to-day hypnotherapists, no, you cannot be forced into a hypnotic state. So if I were to say to you, close your eyes and relax the muscles around your eyes so much that you can't relax them anymore, think about it. Whose responsibility is it to close the eyes? The coach or the client? Because if I'm the trusted expert and I ask the client to close their eyes and they don't, the question is, what does that mean? And it means that they're not following instructions. That's all it means. It doesn't mean that they can't go into hypnosis. It doesn't mean that we're even in rapport or not. It just means that they're not following instructions. And that's fine, but we need to go back and check out why. Someone saying that they can't be hypnotized is simply not following instructions, and it says a lot about why they are stuck in their problems. There could be multiple reasons why they won't follow the instructions, but what we're looking for in this particular moment is that it doesn't mean that they can't be hypnotized. It's just something's missing within the trust, the rapport, and the agreement about what's about to happen. If the client won't follow the instructions, they will not get the results. And that's as simple as that. If you've gone to a coach for hypnosis to be able to resolve anxiety, yes, they can do NLP, timeline, other processes. Of course, they can do that. But if the coach has already identified that hypnosis is the way to go, then they're not going to get the results. And so while it's the client's responsibility to go into trance, it's your job as a coach to have confidence in what you're doing. You want to make sure that if you've set things up for hypnosis, that they're going to follow your instructions. And we get that compliance well and truly before we've even had them almost sit down ready for the session. We've already checked in with compliance before that they'll follow instructions when you ask them to fill out the questionnaire, to all sorts of different things. You often see hypnotherapists will, say to a client, oh, on stage or on YouTube, I need you to just stand over here for a second. Oh no, the lighting's not right here. Can you stand over there? This isn't about trance. This isn't about the stage. This is about getting compliance and getting them to recognize who's the authority in that now moment. So, for people who are willing and ready to let go of their problems, hypnosis can help you change your attitudes, your perceptions, and your behavior. Hypnosis definitely changed my life. I absolutely love hypnosis. Yeah, it's an absolute deal breaker. Now, as I've said, we need to have rapport in place, and it's like what we learn in practitioner. We've got to pace and follow. When you, as the coach, go into a trance, the client must follow. So, like a composer making music, you can plan strategically where you want to move the listener to, and then they come to you for the experience. So, you, as the coach, as the hypnotherapist, you must be confident in what you're doing. You must be prepared in the sense of where you're going to help that client move to. Your beliefs and your limiting beliefs will influence your client's ability to believe in the change that is possible. Like, it's mind-boggling. I know I am somebody who definitely believes in past lives, and I've got all the evidence to prove to me that past lives are a thing. And so I can easily take somebody into a past life, but not all hypnotherapists can. You'd think that being hypnosis and accessing the unconscious mind and the soul's journey, and we're doing regression back to childhood, that it would be assumed that anybody could take a client back to past lives. But if the coach doesn't believe it, then it is going to be incredibly difficult for the client to access past lives. If you are a coach who has limiting beliefs about money, raising your price, charging your worth, if you have limiting beliefs on this, then if a client comes to you to resolve their money blocks, they're going to be able to carry their success to the level in which you have carried your success. So, the more limiting beliefs that you have, the more you actually limit your client. You need to be confident. You need to be working on your self development to be able to resolve and dissolve any limitations that you have because you will attract those clients, those ones uh, that want this from you, and it's sort of like the universe testing you, saying you need to resolve this one. See, you've had clients, one, two, three, four, five clients come up with the same problem you're battling with. Take notice of that. People who are in trance are far more susceptible to your suggestions. So if you say, don't see a blue elephant, this is exactly what your mind is going to bring up to their attention. Don't picture a blue elephant. Your unconscious mind has to categorically bring up an elephant, make it blue, and then push it aside for it to recognize what we're not doing. So in trance, we make sure that we give clear, direct instructions to the client. It's a little bit like a child, right? Don't spill the milk or don't run. And the child's like, what? Run? Okay. So we keep this in mind when we put a client into trance. Quick sidestep, hypnosis and visualizing. Now, people assume that model operator should be able to visualize clearly in hypnosis. And the truth is, depending on your rep system, will depend on your experience that you have in trance. So, of course, kinesthetic people will feel in trance. Auditory people will hear more acutely in trance. Some people will smell and tasting in hypnosis and in trance too. But you need to know your client's rep system to make your hypnosis that much more powerful. Because if you've got a client that's kinesthetic, feeling based, and you say, okay, I want you to walk down the path and notice the colors and notice the vibrancy, they won't be doing that. They're looking for the feelings to get a sense of moving down the path and feeling the feelings as you move through that space, blah, blah, blah. So we're needing to change your predicates to match the client's representation system. And yes, There are some people who can't see color. Their rods and cones are functioning differently, but they can imagine color in hypnosis. There are some people who can't imagine color, but can feel, sorry, but can imagine faces in hypnosis. So we're all doing some really unique stuff in hypnosis. So there are some people who can't see color, but they can in hypnosis, and there's some people who can't imagine color, and yet they can imagine faces. Like it's so strange. Now, just as a quick example, if you're somebody who's saying, well, what's it like to visualize in trance? I want you to think about a friend that you haven't seen for a while. Maybe even push yourself and think about the friend that you had back in primary school and just notice, can you see what they look like? Might be a little bit blurry. There might be some things that are missing out of that visual representation. Can you imagine a rainbow in the blue sky? Do you sense that? You take yourself back to a time when you saw a rainbow in the sky? Or what does your favorite pet look like? And again, what kind of picture comes up for you? Is it clear, crystal clear, like looking at a photo? Or is it a little bit hazy? Because truth be told, that's what it's like being in hypnosis. One last thing there on the visualizing in hypnosis, there is a thing called aphantasia. And aphantasia is the inability to voluntarily create a mental picture in your mind. There's only 3% of the population that have this. So if your client says they cannot visualize, it is so, so rare for people who can genuinely not visualize. I've only met one person in my whole career who cannot visualize, and you actually have to teach them how to create pictures to then being able to do visual hypnosis. Okay. So there is a difference between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. Conscious mind, as we've gone over in our practitioner training, the conscious mind is that rational logic part of you that is switched and focused on in your day-to-day tasks. And the unconscious mind is like that photo album of who you are. So it's switched on and recording everything that you do, yet it's still just operating in the background of your experience. Remember this from our training, the RAS and the critical faculty. So we know that our unconscious mind is 90% of our experience. The unconscious mind there is is storing all parts of your experience. And yet we've got the conscious mind that's only 10%. We know in hypnosis that there is this critical faculty, like a veil between the logical mind and the unconscious mind, the intuition, the emotional unconscious mind. So, what happens there is if you have a limiting belief or a level of anxiety or something holding you back, then if the logic hasn't been able to solve it, we then look for the answers in the unconscious mind. Now, if you believe that you are not good enough, and that's been told to you since you were so young, then logically telling you you are good enough, the critical faculty will absolutely reject that positive affirmation. So the conscious mind is rational, analytical, it uses willpower to get things done, has a temporary memory. That's the conscious mind. And yet in trance state or your unconscious mind, it has that infinite power, beautiful imagination. It has that emotional, it stores all your emotions. It's very, very protective of you. And so if you've got a client who's coming to you to resolve anxiety, they've got a fear of cats and something happened to them at Nana's house when they were little, then all of this was stored at the unconscious mind, this anxiety, this fear. Because the way the unconscious mind works is that its number one job is to ensure your safety, to ensure that where you're up to is secure and safe. So if you've got evidence in the past that cats are dangerous and they're a potential threat, it will bring up anxiety as a way of get away from that animal, get away. Even though you're now like 40 years old and that happened to you when you were 3, The unconscious mind has stored evidence to say that all cats are a threat, your safety is the number one priority, and it will generate a level of anxiety to get you to move. So we know that the anxiety is is a limitation. It's like that self-sabotage. It used to work and now it's not. And what happens is we can logically tell ourselves, we're a grown up, we can logically tell ourselves that the cat isn't a threat anymore. But the unconscious mind does not accept that. So we have to put somebody into trance to be able to penetrate through that critical faculty to access the unconscious and to be able to undo the programming that says all cats are a threat. Does that make sense? This is why we use hypnosis. Somebody who's come to me with claustrophobia, that panic and being in small spaces, was having trouble getting to work, getting into the lift, and showing up to work in a hot sweat mess. And so, what we had to do was we had to use trance and hypnosis to go back on his time stream to when the unconscious mind had said small spaces are a problem. We took that client back to about 5 years old, and he was being bullied. He was locked in a cupboard, and the unconscious mind did what it does best. It said, okay, never again will I put myself into a small space. This is so stressful. And it completely ignored and left out that the problem actually was the lack of parental guidance, the lack of authority with the bullies. It was all of these other things that were a problem. But the unconscious mind just linked the small space to being the stressor, the trigger. So, as a way of protecting that person, anytime he went into a small space like an elevator, the panic would come up, get me out of here. Last time I was in a small space, it was awful, it was stressful. And so the panic is actually working for that client for safety. With hypnosis, we go back, we get the unconscious mind to recognize that they're no longer five, they're no longer worried about small spaces. And like that, the unconscious mind will let go of small spaces being a problem. That client could then get to work, get into the lift, get into get into work and being able to get that promotion and having a very fulfilling life. Of course, working with me, I also wanted to have a look at the soul contracts and notice that there were a few past lives where he had died with like mines collapsing in on him and other scenarios. So we cleaned all of that up too, because I can and because I like to be thorough. So yeah, this is why we use hypnosis, is to be able to get through that critical faculty back to the unconscious limitations and to undo that. Hmm. So have rapport with your unconscious mind and recognize if you've got any limiting beliefs. I have no worth. It's not my fault. Well, it's my fault. I'm not lovable. I can't trust. I don't deserve. People are a threat. I'm powerless. You can use trance to be able to undo this and to bring in empowering beliefs. And so Richard Bandler's known to say people are not having enough fun. It's not that they're not capable of it. It's just that they're not using their neurology in a way that gives them greater personal freedom. So, in other words, when you know how to have rapport with your unconscious mind, when you've cleared away your limitations, you're not taking your problems so seriously anymore. And if they haven't got a grip on you, then you have a greater sense of personal freedom. Love it. And then this piece here, trance states feel as if you have suddenly become very wise. Oh, it's absolute bliss being in trance, and you just you ask a question, or the hypnotherapist asks a question, and all of these answers just start to appear. It's brilliant. Okay, so let's have a look at brain waves. Ooh, just momentarily. Your brain is a bustling hub of electrical activity. When a group of neurons send an electrical signal to another group of neurons, we call these brain waves. So there are five basic types of brain waves that range from very slow to very fast. And I'm going to show you a chart that gives the list of these: beta, alpha, theta, delta, and gamma. So these brain waves are in constant motion, and the brain produces constant waves of these frequencies. Whether they're resonating at a higher frequency or a lower frequency will depend on the conscious experience you're having. So right at the top there is the gamma, and this is that peak focus, that heightened perception, information processing. So being in the classroom, taking in a lot of information. The beta is the actively thinking, problem solving, answering questions, alert and concentrating. Whereas the alpha is more of that relaxed, calm, recharging, going for a walk. The theta brainwave is associated with deep sleep, that intuition, connecting with spirits, that creative part of your mind. If you're an artist and you get, completely lost for time when you're marinating in a project. And then you've got the delta, that deeply dreamless, sleeping, healing energy. Okay, so let's have a look at hypnotic language patterns. If you are somebody who is attached to grammar and things being semantically correct, then throw that out the window, because when it comes to hypnosis, the language matters, but we're deliberately inducing confusion, being quite vague, being quite abstract, to get the logical mind out of the way and start speaking that symbolic language of the unconscious mind. So let's have a look at the hypnotic language patterns. You need to remember that when people are in trance, they are far more susceptible to your suggestions. So if you say, don't see a blue elephant, the unconscious mind doesn't hear the don't. All it will do is to bring up that blue elephant. Whatever you tell them to bring their attention to, they will. So keep this in mind, because if you are in hypnosis if your client is in hypnosis and you want them to be more confident, you want them to feel excited about what's to come, then say that instead of saying things like being free from fear. I was like, hold on, what am I fearful of? In fact, I remember when I was pregnant with one of my daughters, I had studied hypnotic birthing, and I'd put myself into a bit of trance. I was, partially asleep for Emma's labor. And then the nurse or somebody who came around on the floor had said, okay, the anesthesiologist is here. Who's got pain? Who needs any pain medicine? And my unconscious mind went, pain? And I came straight out of that trance because the suggestion had been made to look for pain. And it was like at the worst time. So instead of just smooth sailing, it was like it went from 0 to 10 on that scale of pain. So anyway, probably too much personal info of mine, but be careful with your language when somebody's in trance. Remember in NLP practitioner training when we talked about chunking up to agreement, chunking up to abstract language versus chunking down into the detail? Well, when we're doing hypnosis with people, we deliberately want to chunk up, be vague, be abstract, because the unconscious mind will hear that chunked up language and do what it needs to find the blueprint of perfect health and healing. You don't need to tell it to go and find the remedy to solve all anxiety. You just chunk up your language, and the unconscious mind will make sense of it. That's perfect for the client by their standards. So, yeah, we're not chunking down, because that logical mind will start to kick in and they will come out of trance. Now, the Milton model hypnosis, because in this training we're talking about the Ericksonian Milton method, this is, again, opposite language to the meta model. Remember when you learnt the meta model and it was like how specifically, who specifically, what specifically? The meta model is going to chunk down into the detail and bring somebody out of a trance. The Milton model is all about chunking up, deliberately bringing in that sense of confusion, talking in that language of the unconscious mind. It will put somebody into trance. So, as an example, I was teaching my NLP master practitioners on the weekend some phenomenal hypnosis, and we were looking at really being abstract storytelling in our language to, you may or may not want to sit down in that chair, but as you sit in that chair welcomes you in as you lose all sense of reality, and just closing your eyes and going off to wherever you need to go. Like it was just this feeling like you were waffling, but it was deliberate waffle instead of saying, now sit down in the chair and be ready to go on a journey. It's deliberately waffle language with all respect. Let's have a quick look at a hypnotic induction, just the beginning of it. This isn't the full thing, but you'll notice with this particular language that it's quite rhythmic storytelling. And remember from our delete, distort, and generalize and the meta model and all of the things that we've learned in NLP practitioner to listen out for things like cause and effect, complex equivalence, all the linguistic presuppositions. Well, those two are in the hypnotic language patterns. So listen out for them because they are quite deliberate. So as you are seated, take 3 slow, deep breaths. And now focus clearly on the sound of my voice and let nothing distract you from my voice. You will hear sounds other than my voice, but they won't let them bother you or distract you from my voice. You will hear and remember every word I say. And as I focus on the sound of my voice, it becomes the center of your concentration. And you will notice that the sound of my voice will make you feel drowsy and relaxed. And you will find as you become more relaxed that very soon your eyes will want to close over. So, whenever this occurs, just allow it to happen. And I want you to imagine that there is a wave of calmness beginning at the top of your head. And as my voice continues, it moves down through the body, relaxing and smoothing and calming as it goes all the way down to the tips of your toes and even into the soles of your feet. We'll call this wave alpha. Okay, so you can see from my slide, there's a couple of typos there. That does not matter at all. But what we're doing here is we're deliberately creating a cause and effect. So we're at the beginning here. You will hear the sound of my voice, but you won't let any other noise distract you. You will hear and remember every word I say. So what we're doing here is the cause and effect that the sound of my voice is going to signal you to relax, to become more centered within that focus of hypnosis. We've got the complex equivalence here that the sound of my voice will make you feel drowsy and relaxed. So my voice equals drowsy and relaxed. And they're all embedded commands that are signaling to the unconscious mind, this equals that, follow my lead, and you'll have, and we can assume trance is going to happen. And then we also use things in language that very soon your eyes will want to close over. So whenever this occurs, just allow it to happen. So it's indirect language and it's an invitation to the client to do what's naturally going to happen, but it also installs that compliance, that trust, that rapport, that we are going on a journey and I'm going to hold the space very safely for wherever your unconscious mind wants to go. So this is just a very quick example that we are generating all sorts of cause and effects within the language, a lot of complex equivalence. As you sit in that chair, all of your problems will disappear as that chair invites you to let it go. It's like, how is the chair inviting anything? It's just a 3D matter, but we're using the language of the unconscious mind. And you'll notice in some hypnosis scripts that the word try often comes up. And so in the trance, you may say, now try to bring back the old problem and notice what happens instead. That word try is very limiting. If I said to you, try to open the front door, the trying presupposes that it's not going to happen. So when I say to you, try to bring back the old problem and notice what happens instead, there's no direct language to the unconscious mind to actually, okay, I will bring it back. It's like I'm going to try and it just doesn't happen. It doesn't have any grip. So it again reaffirms that the shifts have occurred, changes have occurred, and if that change has occurred, what else is possible? Okay, so let's continue here with the hypnotic language patterns. So from your practitioner training, there are a list of hypnotic language patterns, And even going through them can induce a level of trance. So stay with me as I go through these. So we have cause and effect in our hypnotic scripts, and it suggests one thing will cause another. Because your eyes are closed, you're finding it easier to relax. Now, relaxation is not the byproduct of hypnosis, but it is an invitation to the client to actually relax so that this experience is enjoyable. But just because your eyes are closed doesn't mean you will relax. This is a hypnotic command. So we can add lots of these. Like if you blink, you'll deepen your relaxation. As you breathe, you then go deeper, deeper down to relax. And again, we're linking in the cause of you breathing being the effect of the relaxation. We have the comparative deletion, where a comparison is made, though not specified as to what whom. As I said, we're chunking up and being vague. So in scripts, you'll see things like, and it is more or less the right thing. I mean, have a listen to that. It is more or less the right thing. Which one are we going with? They say hypnosis is easier than. There's a comparison here, and we've deleted out the marker in which we're comparing. Your eyes will feel much more heavier. Again, heavier than what? How they were last time you were in trance, like what's going on here? So we're being vague deliberately. The complex equivalence, very, very reliable in scripts. When we give two experiences the equivalent meaning. So the fact you're listening means you're going to make great changes. Because you're here, you feel the benefits easily and effortlessly. And now that you're walking, your circulation is improving with each step. So we're creating those complex equivalences because you are already doing something. There's a fact here, or because something, or you're taking action, it's going to equal something that's just as rewarding. So we're just creating that link for that complex equivalence. Even the linguistic presuppositions are getting a bit fancier. Conversational postulate is a form of a question or two questions punctuated carefully to direct the client. And so this is something like, do you feel this change is something you understand? Do you know you can change and do the things that allow you to succeed easily? See, here is an opportunity for you to fly. So again, more confusing abstract language, punctuating very carefully, the unconscious mind saying, oh, yes, yes, I can allow change to happen. Yes, I do feel this. So, yes, I can understand that. We're deliberately getting the unconscious mind to comply and agree. A double bind, which is very much used in hypnosis. You provide two options that lead to the same outcome. So remember this from the linguistic presuppositions when it came to sales and marketing. You know, are you going to buy now or buy later? Would you like to use my pen or your pen to sign this contract? It presupposes that it's going to happen and doesn't, while it seems like there's choice, we exclude the choice of saying no. So the double bind is much the same. You can relax now or sooner than you like, close your eyes, or just relax your eyelids. Either way is fine. And you're learning all there is to know, or you already know. Dot, dot, dot. Extended quotes. All right, so this is like, with all due respect, this is like my nana waffle at the nursing home. This is when somebody's just continues on and on and on with the story without taking a breath, without getting input from the other person, and it does bring on confusion to the conscious mind. So it will naturally create a sense of trance. So last week I was with Richard, who told me about his uncle's training in Byron, where his brother found a cowrie shell on the beach while walking with his girlfriend Alyssa. As Alyssa walked by, they noticed a bird on the beach, and Richard had said to himself, I wonder what that means. And as we wonder, and it's a good thing to wonder, what we're going to change now. So we're bringing in that storytelling rhythmic confusion to the mind, where the logical mind will try to hold on, try to pay attention, try to listen, and then at some point it's just like, oh, I'm out of here. Okay, and mind reads. Mind reads, well, in typical NLP coaching, we don't lean too much into mind reads. We lean more into the meta model to get the specifics. Hypnosis is different. We are going to deliberately bring mind reads in, claiming to know the client's thoughts. And so this is like, I know what you're thinking, and it's a good thing to think. I know what you're wondering, and it's a good thing to wonder as we wander down this path of self exploration. Or just a simple one, that's right. When you put somebody in trance and you ask them as a convincer to have a look at how things are changing in their future now that we've done the work. And it's like, that's right. That's right. We're going to reconfirm that changes are good. It's the right thing to change. It's the right thing to take action. Lack of referential index. Ooh, this one is so powerful. Uh, on a sidestep, a lack of referential index can really highlight to when somebody is maybe being a little bit more on the deceptive side because they're going really vague. If you had said to your teenager, what did you get up to after school? And maybe they got up to something mischievous that you didn't want them to do. I don't know what that would be, but hang out with friends too much later at that rough part of town. I don't know. But it's sort of like, oh yeah. And then, they said, let's go have fun. So we went and had fun. And then I came home. So where where the phrase is being vague, again, that word, the phrase doesn't pick out a specific portion of the listener's experience. So it just sort of bypasses the problem or bypasses what you don't want to look at and then brings in the focus. So one can know, you can hear that in hypnotic language, they say you're more confident than you realize now. Like, who is they? But the unconscious mind is going to want to, or the logical mind is going to want to fill in the gaps. And so it's like, well, of course, they say you're more confident. So great, let's do that. It's easier than they say it is now. Again, more hypnotic language where you deliberately leave out the person who said it and you assume that the listener is going to fill in the blanks. And that assumption can be because some authority said so. The lost performative, similar to what we just explored. It leaves out the source of the judgment or the opinion. We don't know who is the person, so one doesn't have to believe. They will know you can do this as you can make those changes. You can know that it is possible to effortlessly be an NLP coach. Like, who are these people? But again, the unconscious mind will fill in the gaps because it does not like to stay in confusion. Model operators. Model operators imply possibility or necessity. So the model operators are going to be words like must, should, um, shouldn't, possible. This is where you must learn these tools, or it is possible to hear it clearly now. You need to understand this easily now. So this implies the amount of energy that is going to take for something to happen. So it's not a force, but it's an energy that sort of brings in the not pressure. It's like it must happen. It's like, okay, well, if it must happen, then I'll stop procrastinating. I'll do it now. Model operators are interesting. If you are somebody who does past life regression or working with more of the spiritual side of things, then the model operators get familiar with those because they will highlight when somebody is talking to you about soul contracts, past lives. When we think about a model operator and somebody who says, yeah, I really should help mum, the should is the model operator and it implies no choice. And that's exactly what a soul contract is. So if somebody's having trouble with feeling guilty about saying no, then have a look at the soul contracts in hypnosis to undo the shoulds, the musts, the needs. That's the more negative side of model operators, how people are tied into those, yeah, those binds. But you can also use it in the positive to say, yes, you must learn these tools of NLP and feel the freedom that comes with that now that you have choice. Nominalizations, these are process words which are frozen in time by making them into nouns. Now, I have dyslexia and like the whole nouns, adverb, adjective, like, hold on, what? But the nominalizations are things like somebody has a relationship. The relationship is something that you can describe as it is, or it's something that you can do. So the nominalization will in hypnosis will sort of confuse the difference between having and doing. So provide you with new insights and understandings and the learnings that you have at an unconscious level. Da, 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 da. So we're presupposing that there's learnings operating here, there's new insights operating here. Your relationships are getting easier and easier now. Like what like what relationships? Again, but we're deliberately leaving that out. Presuppositions, the linguistic equivalent of assumptions. So you're learning many things easily, and you'll find this easy as you sit in that chair, as that chair just takes you off on a cloud, and all of the other thoughts just wander away. Your unconscious is making wonderful connections. So, yeah, again, have fun with that. The next one here is pace current experience. This is like the sequence of things. So, this is where a client's experience is described in a way which is undeniable. So, you're sitting here listening to me, and because you're listening to me, it's easy to go into trance. And try, if you can, to not go into a trance as your eyes get heavier and heavier. So, we're just presupposing the next step. Because it's sunny, with a slight wind, you feel that warmth on your skin, and it just invites you to go into a sense of trance. You don't have to force trance. It's just like being in the sunlight. It just happens naturally. Blah blah blah. You're doing this for too long. Um, and the next one here is your eyes are closed. It's cool, and the blinds are drawn, and therefore da 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 da. All right, phonological ambiguity. This is using more ambiguous, abstract language. This is so much fun to play with if you love using words that have double, triple meanings. You're here, so you can hear me now. You can know no ways to succeed but this way. You can write easily as you do right now. So anything there that has the double meaning but a different spelling, that's like the there, right? Like your mind just like, hold on, which one? Give me context. But we're deliberately not giving the context. Selectional restriction violation. This one's fun, and just think of Disney when you think of this. This is like forming animals or animals or objects into that human experience of having feelings, voices, an opinion. Um, so the chair is awaiting your arrival, or the window is awaiting your gaze. And as you gaze out the window, you notice there's a chair out in the garden awaiting your arrival. And continue. It's like the chair is maybe it's waiting for your arrival, maybe it's just being a chair. And then the tag questions. Tag questions is when you are getting you want the response to be pretty much like a yes or a no. So it's a question added after a statement designed to display resistance. So, and can you not? You can remember now, can't you? And you'll find it easier and easier now, won't you? So you often hear tag questions in a lot of TED Talks and trainings that like, and I know I do it too. I'm really mindful of it. Is to say like it's pretty easy to learn NLP, right? And it's like it's a tag question because I'm presupposing you will say yes. And it takes a bit more effort on the listener's side to actually object to that. So the tag question in hypnosis, and can you not, is sort of like, well, am I or am I not? I may as well just do it. So again, more confusion. Unspecified verb, a verb that you're not saying that it relates to. Similar to what we've already covered, this is about the doing. And can you not? All things are moving easily now. Your ideas will plant themselves in the perfect place now as those seeds of your mind want to create that abundance. Universal quantifiers. I think there's maybe one or two more. Bear with me. A universal quantifier is a universal generalization and no referential index. So everything you are learning is so easy, right? And all the things, everyone is getting this now, and it's a good thing to get it. So, yeah, again, we're deliberately playing with the language. All right, this is the last one. Utilization. I love playing with this when I've got somebody into trance. Be Get playful with this. So, you know, those moments when you've got a client in trance and then suddenly you hear somebody's phone in the audience or the next room go off. And it just happens to happen at a moment where you can bring that in to say, and your unconscious mind just gets that call and it knows the answer to that call. And it's quite easy now, right? Or you hear things like a motorbike, roaring up the road. And it's like, that's right. All of your problems just speed away with that sound of the rumble. And you feel the echo of that as there's that release. Or, yeah, the sound of a fire alarm. Something like that. I often hear it where I live, the fire trucks go by and it's like, and it's the alarm that gets your attention that things have to shift now. So we're utilizing anything that's in the environment to really anchor in the next level of going back to the slides here to the quick examples. So use anything, the knock of a door, a car alarm, a squeak in the floorboards. All of these are opportunities as an opportunity to knock, and you'll find the answer. And you'll hear it backfire, and when you do, you'll choose better choices. That squeak sends you deeper and deeper into trance. I know when I'm doing hypnosis with mums and, dad's in the background looking after the kids, and it's like, and any sound you hear in the background will just signal you to go deeper and deeper. It's just an invitation to relax. That's my Daisy dog. I promise she does look a lot more friendlier and beautiful, but I just washed her and I just took that photo and it was just like she looks so disgruntled. So if you hear a dog barking in the background, it's like that constant noise of life just starts to fade into the background so you can focus on what's truly important. I've already said the motorbike one, but we'll do it again as you quickly zoom to the profound realizations that you need. Or if you hear sirens of a fire truck, as you become aware of the urgent thing you need to be aware of to make great changes in your life. And the unconscious mind's like, oh, okay, better bring all of those files up to the surface. So that completes the language patterns. But now we talk about your voice. When people do trance, a lot of people assume for some weird reason you need to be quiet in your voice and you need to be quite monotone. And the truth is, you do not. I know my husband, he does a lot of storytelling to get a bit of interest into his hypnosis. I'm not sure if that's for the interest of the client or interest for himself. But you want to make sure that you have that, like that 3 a.m. radio DJ voice, the one that's quite rich in the moorishness of wanting to hear that soothing voice that projects confidence, calm, collected energy. I know if you listen to somebody like Chris Voss, who's a FBI negotiator, he often talks about this being quite powerful, quite potent in negotiations. And When you can project that confidence, then the client or the listener will also be at ease instead of the stress that they previously came to that conversation with. So I've got a picture here of my NLP trainer, Rick, and yeah, he has the most phenomenal, rich voice for hypnosis. You do not need to speak slowly. It's more important to be confident and relaxed. It's important to speak clearly, not mumbled, unless you're doing that like Paul McKenna, he'll do a lot of hypnosis-y stuff with two lots of speakers on one side of the other. So one's going into this ear and the other into that, and it's quite, you sort of have to like strain to hear what he's saying, but the unconscious mind is just taking it all in. So make sure your voice is congruent with your message. Generally, commands are given with a downward inflection, so you are getting this now, whereas a question is goes up. Yeah, that's right. So you want to make sure that you are being more direct and commanding in what you want the client to do. If you are suggesting to the client to take in a deep breath, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but take a deep breath too. It'll create that sense of rapport. It'll create that sense of ease. The client can follow your instructions. So if the script says to take a breath, you, as the hypnotherapist, take a breath. And again, ensure your volume can be heard. I love to do hypnosis over the phone, not so much over Zoom, unless they've got their headphones in. Being able to hear the client and them hearing you is incredibly important. So I do not hesitate to do hypnosis with a client that I know how they work. I have rapport with them. I know their representational system. I know what their thresholds are and their boundaries are. So to get a client to put the headphones in, go lay on their bed, and really immerse in that experience is, yeah, it works and it's beautiful. Compared to Zoom, that drops out and drives me nuts. But I've had my business online for well and truly 10 years. I actually don't like doing hypnosis in person. I would much prefer the client was in their own place of comfort and safety. And the minute that the call is finished, they can decompress, they can go for a walk, they're in their own environment instead of all of the polite sort of social, this is wonderful and blah, blah, blah. Like they've got my number, they can text me if there's any questions later, but I do prefer to do mine over the phone. So, all right, so we now know we now know what to expect from hypnosis as the hypnosis facilitator. We know the language to listen for and to facilitate. We've got the client in front of us. You want to make sure that you address any questions that the client has about their experience, like what to expect from hypnosis. So the pre-frame is incredibly important so that they have the confidence to do the things. So don't expect to feel hypnotized. Truthfully, no one actually knows what hypnosis feels like specifically. My experience of hypnosis is going to be completely different to your hypnosis. So for some reason, like whatever they've seen on TV, it's like, oh, I have to be like completely out of it and completely relaxed. And it's like, no, don't expect to feel hypnotized. Don't expect to feel relaxed. And you will be in control the entire time. I cannot make you do anything that you don't want to do. Hypnosis is self-hypnosis, and it's your commitment to yourself, your future self, if you allow this to happen. You've already outlined the changes that you want, and ultimately, trance feels like, I know I've just said people don't know what it feels like, but to create that metaphor, trance feels like being at a red light and losing track of time. So we go into trance every single day. All of those impulse purchases at the supermarket, when you're in a bit of a trance and you reach for the chocolate bar, all of that's trance stuff. This is not clucking like a chicken. This is not foreign, and it is weird, but it's not foreign. It's natural. You already do it every single day. Now, when the client is in trance, there's some things to look out for that tells you that they've dropped into that hypnotic state. you will see them breathing that tends to slow down. They yawn. I do this. It's weird. They will start to swallow. Again, I do that. That's weird. I'm like, what? Like, obviously, their head would nod forward, or it can nod to the side. The client may be aware that their eyes are moving under their eyelids quite fast. Just go with it. It just helps them go into more of that theta brainwave. And obviously, there's that loosening of the limbs. It's like going into that meditative state. So, as I've already gone through the alpha relaxation induction with you, I just want you to highlight that there was some linguistic patterns that I talked to you about before. And if you're looking at the screen instead of listening to me, you can see that there's some cause and effect here, complex equivalences, there's some pace and leading side of things, there's some unspecified verbs, more complex equivalents. So, in each and every script, it is going to have all of those language patterns depending on your style of hypnosis. So as my voice continues, sorry, start again. As my voice continues, you can feel it continue down into the chin, that warm, safe, secure in that alpha. So it doesn't logically make any sense, but there's that complex equivalence that my voice invites you to travel down into trance. And then, of course, once somebody's gone through the trance, there's the wake up, the coming out of trance, which I'll go to in a little bit. In a little bit. So, before we look at a formal trance induction, let's have a look at other ways people go into trance because it doesn't need to be always that formal script. In NLP practitioner, I would have taught you expanded awareness, getting into that learning state, and that's all about looking up so that you are looking at the dot on the wall and pouring all of your attention on that dot of the wall and then bringing your attention down so that you can see the fingers on the side of your face. So it's like seeing the walls on the sides of the room. And that will signal your unconscious mind to start to go into that flow state, that trance. So that can happen within 10 seconds. The client will be into trance. Another quick picture of the diagram. You can use metaphors, and it's that start to tell the story to bypass the critical faculty. So just like watching a movie, nobody can actually tell when they've gone from like hyper focus, the to-do list, sitting down, got the popcorn in their lap. No one can actually tell you when they've completely immersed themselves in the story, sorry, of the movie compared to being in that logical space. So metaphors, telling stories will put somebody into trance. And that's probably why we traditionally tell our children stories at bedtime. And yeah, and we can do timeline. Again, if you've learnt that from practitioner training, this will speak directly to the unconscious mind and open up the book of the client's soul's journey to rewrite the future. So some clients need a bit of an induction when it comes to timeline to relax them for what's coming, but when somebody starts to look inward and starting to trust their intuition, when they're starting to go account more into that inner world, they're starting to go naturally into a level of trance. How deep depends on the client. Alrighty. So, and then in our practitioner training, we go over suggestibility tests. And this is anything that presupposes trance. So, this builds confidence in a client that if this is happening, then trance must be happening. So, it increases the confidence and it increases the acceptance that the client can create the results and the healing. So, the suggestibility tests are not necessarily the thing that's going to be the healing change work. It's a step that you can use for a client who's a little bit resistant, doesn't understand hypnosis. And it's like, well, if hypnosis works over here and you've got that convincer, well, that convincer can now go into any therapy work that we do. That if you were in trance, something had to shift because it shifted over here on the nonsensical thing. So in class, in practitioner training, there are a few that we go through. There's the postural sway, the finger vice, and the book and the balloon. So I'm going to quickly read this out to you And I just want you to notice how the suggestibility test works. I just want you to use your imagination, and I want you to imagine that you walk into your kitchen or any kitchen. It could be your kitchen, your nana's kitchen, or even a kitchen that you've seen on TV. Imagine walking into that kitchen and going over to the fridge. Grab hold of that handle and pull the fridge door open, noticing the sound of the fridge as the door opens wide. And you look inside that fridge and notice perhaps there's that sensation of cold air coming out onto your face and feeling that freshness, perhaps even smelling the fresh food in there. Notice on the middle shelf is a glass bowl filled with luscious, ripe lemons. Perhaps those lemons have leaves, perhaps they don't, but I would like you to grab out one of those lemons, whatever one that you would like, and seeing that vibrant yellow, grab one of those lemons and take it to the bench, where, of course, you'll find that chopping board, your favorite chopping board. And nearby, you will find a knife. I would like you to imagine picking up that knife, carefully cutting that lemon into half, noticing the sensation, noticing the texture as you do, and of course, noticing the smell of that lemon as it comes into the air, breathing in that fragrance as it hits the back of your nose, that fresh, new smell. As you take one of those halves of the lemon, just imagine picking it up and notice whatever you need to notice about this lemon experience. Lift that lemon up to your mouth and lift it up to your chin as high as you go, and then squeezing that lemon juice into your mouth and feeling that lemon, feeling the flavor explode. The zest of that lemon signals your muscles to squint your eyes and to feel that fresh feeling. Notice all the sensations, the taste, the smell, the feeling the citrus on your tongue and the way your mouth waters to that experience. As you swallow that lemon juice, noticing that some of those juices pour down your chin, and whatever you get is completely perfect. With your fresh new lemon breath, it's time to come back to the room, coming all the way back. And when you're ready, opening your eyes to a whole new you. Did you feel your mouth watering? Could you feel yourself kind of squinting to the lemon experience? We did not have a lemon in our hands. We did not have the lemon in the room. And this is like a suggestibility test that the body is going to respond to the suggestions. If the trust and rapport is in place, the body will respond. And of course, they use this in marketing all the time. But you need to make sure that with the suggestibility test, it anchors in the competence, the confidence, the congruence, that trance creates shifts without needing to actually move any physical thing. So in your practitioner training, you may experience a suggestibility test. I'm going to skip that one. I do not like it. The next one you may go through in your practitioner training is your finger vice. And this is about clasping your hands together and pointing out your fingers and opening out your fingers so there's a space between them. If you can see me on the screen, I'll make it bigger in a second. But this is about telling the mind that there's like that vice, like that clamp around your fingers, and we're going to naturally draw those fingers together, drawing those fingers together, drawing those fingers together. And so the client starts out with their fingers apart. What happens is if they're doing it correctly with their palms closed, fingers out, that when you start to look at that gap and you start to get that hypnotic suggestion that those fingers are coming together, magnetically coming together, that they will come together, and that's the power of trance. Truth is, that's just the muscles fatiguing, but the client is now got this convincer that this is now stuck shut, and the power of the mind, if it can do that, what else can it create? So I know for myself, if a hypnotherapist says, and now those fingers are stuck together, glued together, I actually won't be able to undo it until somebody says release. And like, oh, so you can play with this by even putting somebody's hand on the table, and it's sort of like your hand is now stuck to the table and you can't move it in any way, blah, blah, blah. So you can play with all sorts of suggestibility tests, but the suggestibility tests are, again, convincing them that change will happen. And then the other fun one, which again, I won't go over too much here, but it's about having the one palm up, one palm down. This is hilarious in the training room. And then just giving the unconscious mind the assumption that one has a weight attached to it, and then the other hand has a string of helium balloons attached to it. And as one hand gets lighter, the other hand gets heavier and heavier. And it's a good thing for that hand to get lighter and lighter. And so what happens in the training room is everybody sort of standing like doing the Egyptian dance. And yeah, and it's like, wow, okay, if your unconscious mind is doing that, what else is possible? A lot of fun. And it only takes about 5 minutes to really get that cool outcome, maybe less. So the structure of a hypnotic script, let's have a look at that now. There is an induction, there is a deepener, there is a change work, there's a wake up, and there's a post hypnotic suggestion. So the induction is similar to what you've heard with that spiraling down of a countdown. So you're just noticing the top of your head and that light that just streams in from the top of your head and just brings in that relaxation from your eyes down to your jaw, down throughout your heart space, into your fingers, down into the hips, all the way down. And so that just gets the client to just come back to that Zen space. The deepener is much the same. It's a little bit of that repeat work to bring in that hypnosis even stronger. So not all clients need that, but this is like bringing that light in, relaxing. And as you're feeling so much lighter, it's like pushing the button on that elevator. And as that elevator doors open, you just go down, 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 all the way down to the floor that is important to you, all the way down to that level. So the client is now relaxed. The unconscious mind is now at the forefront, and the logical mind is just, not in charge anymore. So now that you've bypassed the critical faculty, the change work can happen. And this is where we go back to childhood, or going back to that limiting decision, going to a point in time in the future when the anxiety is not there, and notice what changes had to occur. So we're doing the change work then. Once you're convinced as the hypnotherapist that all things have been addressed that were important and outlined at the beginning, then it's time to come up. And some people like to do a bit of a count. So I'm going to count backwards from five to one. And on that count of one, you will wake up fully refreshed. And then being able to count back, going, okay, on five, noticing your body starting to become more alert. And on four, as the awareness starts to come up into your fingers, blah, blah, blah. So you're bringing them back up. I don't tend to use numbers. I tend to just be a bit more direct, and your voice needs to become more direct in coming back and being alert. And then once the client's out of that, they may still feel a little bit wobbly, but this is when we still talk about post-hypnotic suggestions. So you may, in that moment, give them suggestions, tasking work, go for a walk, journal, blah, 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 whatever is right for that client. And it's important that we continue this momentum, and I'll see you next week, whatever is congruent to that client. Okay, so let's very quickly have a look at Milton Erickson, and ignore that number. That's from my training slides. So Milton, as a quick example, I want you to notice how vague and abstract and how respectfully waffly he gets. I'd like you to just sit back and listen to the sound of my voice, focusing only on the sound of my voice. You'll have total and complete control while listening to the sound of my voice. And I'd like you to notice each inflection of my voice, pitch of my voice, and every word as if it's your own voice in your own mind. And you don't have to relax now. You won't feel tired at all. Just listening to the sound of my voice, sounding like you're in a dialogue. It's perfect as it is now. That's right. You don't have to relax at all, and you won't even feel tired or even seem sleepy. It's like you're simply observing my voice, noticing it as much deeper level, just listening to the sound of my voice. You'll notice small shifts in you or see pictures in your mind that cause you to go deeper into your imagination. And in a moment, not now, you might begin to relax at the unconscious level, causing your conscious to relax at a deeper, deep unconscious level. And I know you're thinking those thoughts, and it's a good thing to think those thoughts, as those very thoughts may cause you to go deeper and deeper into a soft meditation like trance. So easy to drift, to dream and drop and drifting, just dreaming, drifting, dropping, falling easily into that dream state, causing you to gain those special insights. That's right. Those insights that preserve in those special place where you preserve all those special learnings. You might feel certain shifts as your unconscious mind gains these insights at a deep level. And every shift that you make at an unconscious level causes you to go deeper and deeper, relaxed as you make connections. And as you continue to relax, as you make deeper connections with your unconscious now, that you begin to slow your breath. Just begin to relax as you hear, and you can hear my voice. And sometimes it may sound like this, and sometimes it may sound like you're in a dialogue. However, you do it is absolutely perfect. And at times it may even sound like your unconscious is making connections immediately, or if those connections will be made the moment you relax now. Oh, that's right. Those connections as you're breathing slowly deeper to relax. It's more or less the right thing to continue dreaming, drifting, dropping down, falling, just dreaming, drifting, dropping down as you begin to relax your unconscious now. And at times it might sound like the sound of my voice is taking you deeper, deeper down to relax. Or at times it might sound like you're in a dialogue. Though deeper you go, my voice will go with you. And it reminds me of a time when I was talking to a good friend of mine who lived by the beach all the way on the Greek islands, whose cousin George, talking to his uncle, explained that relaxation was merely a state of mind. And as you focus on the unconscious and allow yourself to continue dreaming, drifting, dropping down, just dreaming, drifting, dropping down, you begin to relax your unconscious mind now. And at times it might sound like the sound of my voice is taking you deeper, deeper down. And at times it might sound like you're in a dialogue, though the deeper you go, my voice will go with you as the chair beckons you to relax. How you will feel when you relax easily into your body, feeling that relaxation at a deep unconscious level, letting you rest, relax, and rewind to a time when you were in a deep, deep sleep, the deepest, most relaxed sleep of all sleeps, as you let go of your thoughts, your imagination, just starting to float away on clouds on a breezy day, moving off to some other horizon, some other moment in time where you were sleeping easily. And now that you recall that time, that time when you're in the deepest of sleeps, on the softest of beds, with your head on the most fluffiest of pillows, you rest your head now, that you're relaxing easily now. And I'm not sure if you'll relax deeply now or soon. Your eyelids will feel like weights, just resting upon them, holding them shut so you can just sleep, sleep. dreaming, drifting, dropping, falling off to sleep. That's right. Just like you thought, you would just relax easily, deeper now or later, as you hear my voice. Is it now or in a moment? And you may hear my voice, or you may have that inner dialogue, causing you to relax, and you may feel comfortable or relaxed. Either way you do, you will relax now or later, as you might dream, as you dream, drifting, dropping deeply into trance, falling into that trance. Either way, you'll change now or in a moment. Are you getting those insights, or are they just simply coming to you? You can get them now or later. You can learn now or in a moment. You will succeed now or as you relax. You're either here relaxed or deeply relaxed now. So, when is now a good time to start? You might find it easy or simple. You might shift in a moment, not now, but as you do, finding the answers here or there, and either way is fine. You either will now or decide later as you continue to relax, hearing the sound of my voice and thinking those thoughts. And each time you blink, you'll go deeper. As you breathe in and out and continue breathing, you'll find it easier as you relax more. As you're sitting there, feeling those feelings, hearing those words, seeing those pictures in your imagination, and you may even say the words in your mind as you relax more, and as your mind may wander, as it's wandering now, and you might feel your heart pumping slowly as the blood in your body is refreshed by the sound of my voice, as you feel the temperature around you now. That's right. So, in a moment, I'm going to count from 1 to 5, and you'll awaken 20% with each count. So, on 1, locking these suggestions deep at the unconscious level, and on 2, feeling a sense of vibrancy and alertness returning to your body. On 3, wondering what it would be like to look at the world through new eyes. And on 4, coming all the way up now, feeling wide awake, wonderfully refreshed, wide awake. And on 1, opening your eyes to a whole new you. Ooh. There's a quick example of the Milton model, the way that the language just weaves and creates that fabric of trance. It's just beautiful. And of course, that's like an induction or an induction and a deepener. You could continue that script as their client's now well and truly in trance, and you can go back and do the work to undo the limitations. If your client, let's say, had claustrophobia, and it was sort of like, okay, and now's the time for the unconscious mind to go back to time when it created the claustrophobia, and knowing that there's a blueprint here of perfect health and healing, we can undo the neural pathways of claustrophobia. All it takes is that powerful decision at the unconscious level to completely undo, resolve, and dissolve on all times into the future, claustrophobia free. And in fact, feeling free in the mind to be in any space that's true to you. So I've gone off. But yeah, so you can definitely use the induction and the deepener to then go into the work to then come out of that trance. A quick tip here with hypnosis is that when a client is awake, use indirect suggestions. And when a client is in trance, that's when you can be direct with your suggestions. The type of clients that I see are often quite empathic and very generous and wanting to give and soothe and comfort and help. So they have this strange idea that being direct with somebody is rude. And the truth is, if you can recognize that as an empathic person, when somebody is in trance, it is so much kinder to be direct with them because they will take on your beautiful suggestions in that moment. then being, socially polite and all of the, the waffle that goes on around it to be acceptable. So when somebody is in trance, direct suggestions, you are now beautifully confident with your head held high. And even when they come out of trance, you can still be direct with them to say, it is great. We've had a phenomenal session. It is well worth your interest in booking in another session. When would you like that session? Should we make it, what day of the week are you available? So you want to make sure that you can be quite direct when the client's in trance. When they are awake and out of trance, very logical before you've even put them into trance, you need to be indirect. When you come in for a session with anxiety, you will leave with confidence. Like it's a little bit more vague. Indirect is the best way of putting it. So if you were somebody who has a client in trance, be direct and then be socially acceptable when they are awake. So, in your practitioner training, we will go through a particular process for you to be familiar as the hypnotherapist, for you to feel confident, and to play with the power of the mind with somebody who is also a student and willing to experience the power of the mind. It is amazing. The more that you experience hypnosis, the easier it is to be able to go into trance, the more confident you have taking somebody else into trance, which just expands the possibility of healing. So I know that we've explored Milton Erickson. Very quickly, I'm going to show you what we do with the Dave Ellman hypnotic induction. All trance is about learning how to go into a trance, is his perspective. In Ellman's style of hypnosis, it's extremely important that the client follows the suggestions of the operator, so the hypnotherapist, for every step of the way. The client must be in rapport with you, or you must be in rapport with your client. There must be a level of following, compliance, and all of those things. So if your client is resistant, if your client is not following your instructions, you have to go back to the point one of building rapport, pace and leading, using their language, understanding their problem from their point of view, all of the things that you know from practitioner training to have rapport with someone, that has to be in place for hypnosis to work. So if you if you think you can learn hypnosis in a short period of time, Dave Ellman said you are crazy. There is no such thing as hypnosis. The client will go into trance on their own. So he's being he's playing with words here. If you think you can learn hypnosis in a short period of time, you are crazy. There is no such thing as hypnosis. The client will go into trance on their own. So again, it's not the hypnotherapist doing hypnosis. The client is doing self-hypnosis. In your practitioner training, these are the vague steps that we go into. We go hand above eyes. We're going to relax the muscles around the eyes. We're going to transfer that relaxation from the eyes into the whole body. And then what we're going to do is we open the eyes and close the eyes, open the eyes and close the eyes. And if you were in person, we then test the arm for relaxation, picking it up and dropping it like it's just a blob. And then we bring in the body relaxation. One more page. And then we bring in the intervention of suggestion. So this is about giving the client a message of confidence, empowering, beautiful, strength, achieving what you want in life. And then there's the count backwards. So this is the chunked up version of this script. If the client is ahead of you when you're doing this process, you need to stop the process, back up. You are teaching the client to follow your instructions. So this will allow them to succeed at the deeper levels of trance. So this particular process, helping somebody else go into trance, having the experience of trance, they have to follow your instructions, because if they do now, then when it gets to the important, tricky, confronting stuff, then they will follow your lead instead of getting 2 steps ahead on an anxious journey. So here we go. This is the script that you would take your practitioner student through. Take a long, slow, deep breath. As I raise my hand above your eyes, and just follow my hand with your eyes, and I bring my hand down and allow your eyes to continue to follow. Exhale, letting go of all of that tension, just washing that away. as the body relaxes. So I'm just to do a teaching moment here. Anytime that somebody's eyes are looking up, you'll often hear me in the one-on-one session to say to a client to look up towards those gorgeous eyebrows of yours. This is signaling already to the unconscious mind to go into a theta brainwave. If you look up towards those eyelids, keeping your chin where it was, don't and having a look up, you will notice that very quickly your eyes will fatigue and you'll want to drop your eyelids. It's like, oh, I've had enough of this. But what's happening is you've signaled to your brain that it's time to go into the theta brainwave. And that's actually why, if you're trained in theta healing, this is why we ask you to raise your eyelids before you go up to creator's light or before you do mediumship or psychic work. This is going to signal your brain to access the spirit realm, the creative part of your mind, and out of the logical mind. So this is why we do this with trance. We look up towards the hypnotherapist's hands, one, two, three, and then drop. I'm so accustomed to going into trance that it happens at a click of the fingers. Now, the tension on your eyes, and I want you to relax the muscles around your eyes so much so that they will not work. Relaxing those muscles around your eyes so they won't work, and just relax the muscles around your eyes so that they will not open. Try to open your eyes only when you're certain that you cannot. So go ahead and try and find that you can't. And now just allow the same relaxation that you felt in your eyes to wash over your entire body from the top of your head down, down, down to the tips of your toes, like a warm waterfall of relaxation all the way from the top of your head down to the tips of your toes. And you can do this particular piece now 3 or 4 times. Now we can deepen that level of relaxation even more. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to open your eyes, not yet, but in a moment. And when I do, I want you to remain deeply relaxed. And then when you close your eyes again, just allow it to take you 10 times deeper, taking 10 times deep as you are here right now, both physically and mentally. So right now, open your eyes and you lead the client with your hand to look up towards the eyes and then closing them down again, going 10 times deeper than you were a moment ago. Deeply relaxed, dreaming, drifting, dropping. We can deepen that level with relaxation even more. So you get the client to open up and close them again. That really signals to the brain to go really deep. I do not like it. Some people love it, but are like, oh, like, whoa, I went in real deep, real quick. So then the client will be in that deep sense of trance, and you say to them, you make sure you tell them, in a moment, I'm going to test your body for relaxation, and I'm going to lift your arm. And if you are as relaxed as you need to be, your arm will just be limp, like a wet rag or a rag doll. So I lift your left arm or right arm, and all it needs to be is so relaxed that it just falls into your arm. If the arm is not limp, you instruct them to say no, let me do the lifting, and the hypnotherapist actually needs to sort of wobble it. It induces that, like being rocked as a baby, just brings in that relaxation, and then just let it fall down. Oh, my arm feels so heavy. But again, it tells the client it's a bit of a convincer. Good. Now that you're Now that same level of relaxation that you felt in your body can also be transferred to your mind in order to help relax. Just want you to imagine yourself on a beach, sitting at the water's edge, and imagine in your mind's eye that you have a stick in your hand. Now, in a moment, I want you to begin to write the numbers in the sand, and I want you to count from 100 backwards. As you write the number, you'll also say it out loud. Then, in between every count, I want you to double the level of that mental relaxation as you imagine a wave washing the number away. Now, say the number 100, and as you do, write it in the sand. Now, this is when the client will actually say it. It'll sound mumbled, but they will actually say it, or it'll be like just watch their lips. So then it's like, good, double that level of mental relaxation and let the wave just come up and wash that number away. Say the number 99. Now, double that mental relaxation and let the wave wash that number away. Say the number 98. Now say it. Deeper, relaxed. Watch that wave, wash it away. Say 97. Deeper, relaxed. And watch the wave, just wash that away. Now just wash the numbers and the counting right out of your mind. Just wash them out, right out of your mind, just disappearing, just going, going, gone, evaporating like water on a hot sunny day. Very good. So clearly we don't go all the way down to 1. By the time you get to 97, they are like well and truly into trance. So again, most clients will lose their number by 98. You won't even hear them. Ellman says something quite thought-provoking about this. He says, when the numbers disappear, the client arrives at a state where the mind becomes totally blank, like that state between waking and sleeping. So Buddhists would call this that void or the no mind. It happens momentarily, but it's quite impressive when we think about people who pay tens of thousands of dollars to go into that flow state. This is what they're talking about. Not only can you reach that with the expanded awareness processes that we teach in masters, but it's also this particular process to get into that no mind space. Pretty cool indeed. And so now the numbers are washed away, they are completely relaxed. You can now put your intervention into this space. So if when we're in when we're in wrong one. When we're in practitioner training, this is when the students are directed to put in a suggestion that's unique to the person sitting in front of them. So, as a quick example, stepping into the truth of who you are, knowing you are confident, radiant, successful woman, free of the hardship, and claiming your abundance. And so you can insert any of the other suggestions that you would want them to strive for. And then in the practitioner training, this is when we count back from the waking process. So count them back from 5 to 1. In a moment, I'm going to count from 5 to 1, and you will awaken 20% with each count. On 5, locking those suggestions deep at the unconscious level. On 4, feeling a sense of vibrancy and alertness returning to your body. On 3, wondering what it will be like to look at the world through fresh new eyes. On 2, coming all the way up now, becoming fully awake. On 1, wide awake, wonderfully refreshed, and opening your eyes to a whole new you. So this is a summary of what we cover in NLP practitioner training. It is a lot more involved when we're doing it in person. There's so many more pieces to add and share. Clearly on this quick video, we've covered quite a lot, but it is about understanding what trance does for the client, what it does for you, really being confident with these processes in your own experience so that when you are working with clients, feel really confident facilitating this, knowing what may come up, what may not come up, and how to navigate all the uniqueness that your clients will bring. It's quite amusing because in the early days of my business, any limitation that I had within myself, I don't know, about raising a price or mum troubles or whatever it is, I would completely attract in clients that would mirror the same sort of struggle that I was having. So it was more reason to go and grab a fellow student back then and to practice and resolve and shift and dissolve all of these limitations. So then I would attract in a higher standard of client, like they'd already done the work and it's like, cool, let's go to the next level of what's possible. Okay, that was an enormous amount of training. I'm Claire Chancellor from Be Your Purpose Coaching. I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.